Welcome back. Well, one of the recent developments about this protest happens to be that raid on the Secretariat of Labour, which we did highlight. We brought you some of those images yesterday when Labour had sent communication across us saying that certain persons, security operatives, had invaded the place. But there was a statement from the DSS saying, look, our men, our team were not part of those who invaded. Then the security operatives who were there in Labour House said they saw some men who were in police uniform come in there. So all that is going on. Of course, there's been several reactions at different quarters, as you may have seen in some of the dailies which we brought to you this morning. We've got two gentlemen joining us to review what transpired over the week or two about this protest and the response from government. So the Pascal Barfia House inclusive. So here in the studios, we've got Honorable Clement Jimbo with us. He's the Deputy Chairman, National Planning and Economic Development Committee in the House. We also do have Honorable Dachon Bagos, who was himself in the House from 2019 up until last year. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain.
Yeah, so let's start off with you on this particular protest. There are several reactions. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, we had someone here who their team, they were cooking, and they said it was their own way of protesting, saying, look, that the government is doing what they can. It's just a year. So different scenarios. Of course, there was another person in Lagos who also did say, look, that doesn't cut it for them. So you've observed what has gone on and how the authorities have responded to it. All appears calm at the moment, at least largely. So for you, do you think that the right lessons have been learned from those protests?
Yeah, well, to some extent, Chamberlain, the right lessons that has given a warning signal in the sense that with what has happened in the past few days, the grief that Nigerians came out with to show and how government tactically manage the situation. You know, before the protests, we had urged the president to come out and address the nation, to give us a template on how he wants to address all the economic situation. But going with what has happened, that's just a little out of what Nigerians are feeling. That when it now gets out of hand, that it is when they will see, government will see people like us, like you, and all the National Assembly members, everybody on the street that, look, do something. That is where government will know that, look, this thing is out of hand. But what has happened is just a warning sign that, look, something needs to be done. And in reviewing the entire protests, to me, it's worrisome again that looking at those that has come out to protest, government should go back to the drawing board. It's like there is a very big danger ahead as far as the Nigerian situation is concerned. We were talking here some days back on issues that when you look at the NSAS, if you want to review the NSAS and the N bad governance, the NSAS, you have more of the voices from the South, less of the voices during NSAS from the North. Now on this N bad governance, you have more of the voices from the North and less of the voices from the South.
Why do you think that is?
Why, when you look at the literacy level of those that came out from the North are even more dangerous than those that came out for the NSAS protests in the South. So meaning government needs to look at how educated can we really get to the Nigerian youths? What is the poverty level that is raging the Nigerian youths across board? During the NSAS, you have people that are already, at least they have some form of livelihood. You have the entertainers on the street. You have people that at least they can they can get something to put on the table. But the end bad governance, most of the youths that came out from the north, those are people that, look, they don't even know the next line of action. And if not because of the town halls that have taken place across the country, governors talking to some of these youths, engagement that took place at some certain level, for me, it did not go all out to the kind of engagement that we want. I don't know what Nigeria could have been by now. Because for me, it's very, very worrisome that all it's not yet over.
How do you see it, Honorable Jimbo?
Well, thank you so very much. First, good morning, Nigerians. Yeah, protest is a wake-up call. It's a signal to governance or to those in government that, look, all is not well. And it is equally a pointer to direction where government needs to do more. And the question that I would really like to dwell in is this government doing enough to addressing these issues raised by the protesters? In my own estimation, I will tell you categorically yes. I look at the scenario as a man who got married to a wife. And for whatever reason, the wife may be passed on or divorced, or the wife is not staying with him again. But before that happened, they had children. And the man had to bring in another wife. The new person that has come into the house obviously will need to understand the operation of the house, the children, how things have been done. So that is the same thing with government. Yes, people may say that it is the continuation of the same political party, but different operators. And it is important that the new operator right now, which is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is equally given ample time to real out his policies. And before you cut, let me say this. This is the first government in the history of this nation, to the best of my knowledge, that is being run without fuel subsidy. It is a kind of new government that never existed, new template that people really need to give it time.
Subsidy components.
Yep.
In that marriage you spoke about, that first one, if they were of children from that first one, and then the second one, and while they are trying to understand the family, if the children are hungry, they won't speak up that they are hungry.
Of course, that is exactly what I'm saying.
So is that not what?
But then the wife will need to.
What's happening?
I agree. Of course, they have the right to speak up. But then it is important that the children equally understand. Sometimes the new wife can prepare a meal that maybe their previous mother never knew how to prepare. And complaint can come from there.
I want to be able to talk to you about that, because we hear people from government say this all the time. Oh, we need more time. We just got in. That's what you're basically trying to say. But your government, that's the reason why you were elected into power.
Absolutely.
Has there been a protest like this before?
Yes, no, they've not been a protest.
There was NSAS.
Yeah, but different templates,
at the time,
different reasons.
Yes, but still the same idea of young people dissatisfied with governance.
Agreed.
When you're coming in as government, don't you think that that's something you should take into cognizance, knowing that situations, and in your case, you came in and you removed fuel subsidy, and the economy got worse. Didn't you expect, as government, that there would be a protest, and why didn't you plan for it?
I agree with you completely. If you look at the NSAS protest, it was very specific towards a particular misnomer that we experience in society. The police force, the police brutality. That was what the protest intended to achieve. And it did achieve. But when you look at this current protest, end bad government is open-ended.
No, it's not. No, end bad governance. They gave you a list of demands.
Yeah, what are the demands?
They said we want fuel subsidy removed. We want this overhauled. As government, we understand from government officials that have been here that these are some things that need long-term solutions.
Agreed.
But in addressing it, in your principal speech, and in everything that's happened in the run-up of this protest, it does feel as though these demands have been ignored. There hasn't been any communication from your office, at least from the presidency, as, okay, look, this is what we're going to do at so and so time. This is what we're going to do at so and so time. And that's what a lot of people are asking for. You don't think that's a genuine request?
Let me really break this down so that we can have a very robust conversation towards solving issues. Yes, the government came in. By no standard, I'm not the spokesperson of this government. I'm a member of the National Assembly, and I'm going to do my best to link the activities we do in the National Assembly towards solving problems currently in this country. The president came in, declared subsidy was gone. Of course, he had to do that because even in the previous budget 2023, there was no subsidy provisions in the budget. So how on earth did anybody want him to survive? And if you also look at the subsidy regime, we as a country have been borrowing money to pay subsidy. And we said, look, we cannot keep borrowing. As a father, if you keep borrowing to keep your children afloat, pay exorbitant school fees for them, and the children are not even aware that the dad is borrowing this money, it is a time bomb that is just waiting to happen. Yes, the president came in, he had no option. That is the truth. I must be very sincere with Nigerians. The president had no option. At that point, he couldn't have run to the National Assembly and said, give me supplementary bill to pay subsidy. From where? He needs to understand the pulse of the nation. Now, I'm talking about time frame. If you look at the policy on agriculture, on intervention, he has gotten an MOU with a company in Tata Corporation or something like that to produce over about 10,000 tractors to be supplied to this country within 5 years. And there is an hectares of land, about 500 hectares, that has been earmarked for mechanized farming. These are
we've heard a lot of the things.
He needs to respond to just that first part where he spoke about the president having no option, and then whether or not anybody agreed. Honorable, you were in the House at the time the PIA came through. Is that the way you see it?
No, not really. That president has no option. As long as you're in government, and when governance have to do with you as a leader, no matter where the option is, there must be an option. And the options on the table for you to choose, it's what, for me, it's wrong with the present administration. That, yes, we know that the issue of the fuel subsidy has been so cabalized to an extent that some people are getting rich and the poor are being maintained because of the fuel subsidy, and the poor are not improving in terms of their status. So what I expected that the present administration could have done before removing subsidy on fuel, we are talking about subsidy on fuel. Before removing subsidy on fuel, what is the chain effect that either the removal or maintaining the fuel subsidy will do? What are those plans you have on ground? I have studied economics policies of many countries. Hardly will you find a developed country or even a developing country that does not have subsidy on something. So if subsidy on fuel, it's cabalized to a certain level. If you remove subsidy on fuel, subsidize something for the general populace of the people. Nigeria have about 200 million people, and over 80 million on the poverty chain. That's almost about 33 to 36% of Nigerians are below the poverty line as stated by UN. Go to India. India of about 1.8 billion. Only about 3% of Indians are below the poverty level. So go to the UK today. UK just passed the 2020. They are working with the 2020 subsidy bill. So mine is, if government don't have a way out, and that is where the option I'm now looking at, can we now make subsidy to be legislated? What are we subsidizing?
Beyond what? The PIA?
No, not even on PIA. I'm not even talking about PIA at the moment. We're talking about, I'm talking about if subsidy is being removed as a result of the fuel subsidy, Nigerians should have subsidy on something, be it agriculture, there should be subsidy on something to subsidize what is happening.
I want to be able to get your response to him, because what he's saying is that at the time when that announcement was made by the president, there was nothing that could have been done about it. Is this true?
No, when in leadership, when you're leading people, you must put something on the table for the people. You can't just, if you tell people, look, nothing can be done, why did you even contest for elections? Most of us politicians, when contesting, we give people hope on some certain things. If we don't have water, these are reasons why we are contesting, and so on and so forth. So, well, all kind of promises. But then, the planning system of Nigeria is our major problem. Like, where is the database? Most of the social incentives that we are talking about, where is it going to? So I expect, and what I don't want us to be partisan on some of this national discussion now that have to do with the economy of Nigeria. I'm PDP, he is APC, you are Labour. Come to the table.
I'm not Labour.
No, I'm giving an
example.
So what are those issues that we need to look at as a people in this country now? Look, now it is within the next 12 months as a people. If the government cannot come out with a working development plan and planning, we're going to have a very big problem. What we have just realized, like I said earlier, is just a warning sign. Imagine yesterday that that rice was sold at 40,000.
50 kg.
Yeah, 50 kg was sold at 40,000, and the civil servants that the rice were being sold to went back to the market and sell it at 80,000. But come on,
wow.
What is the planning? What is the planning template that you want to sell rice 40,000, but when you know that in the open market is more than the 40,000, where is the price regulatory agency that we have in the country that cannot, as of today, the president should give a matching order that, look, this is the price range. It's a standard everywhere.
Maybe that's part where all of you that have been in the house before and now have questions.
Yeah, this is
why
the standard.
Didn't everybody see that, look, this country needs that agency so that we will not be where we are today?
Yeah, this is a standard everywhere in the world.
Or maybe they were not buying from the same markets.
No, we do have the FCCPC.
Exactly. So,
and the FCCPC has said categorically that, you know, these pricings that we're seeing in the market are not realistic.
So where is enforcement?
And they're the product of cabals. Now, because the cabals come and they put a price and then it just keeps going that. But, you know, the problem has always been the enforcement of it. So what are they supposed to do? You know, and what is the legislation from the National Assembly that will empower them to do what they need to do to stop this behavior?
Maybe before my brother comes in, see, every law that is needed to make Nigeria better has been passed by the National Assembly. You only need certain amendments on some certain areas. The problem is enforcement, and enforcement is usually with the executive. You find out that the executive, we have had series of motions in the National Assembly from time immemorial, but carrying out this amendment or motions is usually the work of the executive. Well, the issue of oversight, it's another issue.
Which law ensures that prices of things like property doesn't go over the roof?
Well, there are two ways. You have the standard organization to check the standard of the organization, and you have the is it FCCPC? I don't know much about
have any bid. I've never seen them say anything about property. They have no business there.
Yes, government is supposed to come into. If this price is above, if it's above the affordable rate, you now know that, okay, if it is above the affordable rate, this is where you need to bring in subsidy.
Let me chip in there. If you have a child in your house, and at every point in time, you need to instruct that child to sweep your floor, to dress the bed, to wash the dishes, something is wrong. Patriotism is what Nigerians need. I was in Kano during the Ramadan, whatever. Before that time, a bag of ice block is normally sold for 200 naira.
But
during that period,
it's not all children that do this.
During that period, the price
so that analogy
went
might not be
up
apt.
to almost 700 naira a bag. Now, what is the economic differences that led to that? We need to love ourselves as Nigerians. We need to be patriotic. Just like he said, government sold a bag of rice 50 kg for you at the rate of 40,000. and you turn around and sold it at 80,000 without conscience. It doesn't make sense. We need to love ourselves first and love our nation.
Can I give you an analogy?
Yes, go ahead, please.
There's an analogy that's going around right now. Nigerians are learning from their leaders.
Okay.
So it's a bad habit. We're seeing Nigerians misbehave.
That doesn't make
But they're learning it. They're learning it from people in power.
It doesn't make it correct.
So everyone is marking time. They are waiting.
That even a child that refuses.
So the example
Yes.
that leaders are supposed to give, is that example there when we watch people from the National Assembly live the way that they do?
I agree
when we
with
see
you,
the excesses,
but not all.
when we see
Not
the
all.
cost of governance exponential, and we're looking at people suffering, unable to buy a bag of rice.
I agree with you.
So what do you think leaders should be doing to change that? Because you can't be telling people to change.
Fantastic.
You can't be telling people behave well. Meanwhile, you're behaving so badly.
Fantastic. I agree with you. Now, I always like to get to the root of the matter. How did we get to where we are? Because as people, God has given us brains to think, to act in certain ways, to predict outcomes of events. It's called intelligence. When we had independence in 1960, with a total inherited population of about 45 million human beings, we inherited a GDP growth of about 4.2 billion US dollars. Fast forward to today, 64 years after, the population of Nigeria has increased exponentially to over 200 million. The GDP of this country has equally increased to over 450 billion US dollars. Now the question is, does the growth in GDP reflected on Nigerians, on the growth in population? The answer is no. The question is why? Many of our leaders, I must totally agree with you. Many of our leaders, during the economic boom of this country, where this country was doing very well, where did we keep our resources? We prefer to take the resources outside the shores of Nigeria to invest in other nations, leaving your own house. A father that does not invest in his own house when he has money, tell me, why shouldn't the children complain? What has happened today to me?
So the protest is justified?
Of course, I agree with you, but then it must be done in line with the law.
Which law?
Of course, it has to be peaceful. When protesters go about looting other protesters' shops, that is not protest, that is criminality, because that is against the law. If you want to organize, I have done protests myself. During NSAS, I was there in my state protesting, because that was targeted at solving a particular problem in a society. Let me tell you very clear. Now, government has rolled out policies on agriculture, policies to revamp the economy. Where I expect Nigerians to focus on is to follow the policies of government, to the ministries, to the agencies of government that have been saddled with this responsibility, and ask critical questions. For example, we have fuel queues in Nigeria. What is NNPC doing? That is where the protest should go to. Dangote refinery is there looking for crude oil. We should ask NNPC, what are you doing? That is where citizens collaborate with government to solve national problem of national interest.
The question of oversights. If those oversights are strong enough, do you think it will get to where people will hit the streets?
I agree with you. But then, like I normally say, it takes two to tango. The National Assembly, the government, the presidency, they all work in synergy towards solving problems. But the greater percentage of those that the responsibility lies in their hands are the people.
On your analogy about the rice, could you tell us then, because many don't understand, the rationale behind selling rice 50 kg or 40,000 naira to civil servants? Was it the civil servants that were protesting? Why did they choose civil servants? Did they not also know that, look, if you do this, this will always happen, where they go and sell it to at a different price? What? We don't understand that.
You see, I must be very frank with us, Chamberlain, please. See, we must love ourselves. If you know you don't need it, don't go for it. Allow the next person that you know really needs it to get it. Like the woman he mentioned, obviously did not eat the rice. It is out of greed, just to make a fast money.
Yeah, but that's the point.
Selling.
Why was it made available to civil servants? Why not given to the poorest of the poor?
No, but we have to start from somewhere. Civil servant belongs to an envelope that you can really touch.
Government envelope.
Of course,
Civil servants are making 70,000 at least from salaries. The question is, why wasn't it sent to the poorest of the poor, to people who can't afford even 70,000?
When you say the poorest of the poor,
yes, below the poverty line. That's what that means.
Now let's get something very right. You see, Nigeria, we have demographic. People are segmented.
We have a national register that says these are the people. So why wasn't it taken there? Why civil servants?
I agree, but we should also appreciate the fact that Nigeria is a building in progress. Many of our streets are not named. They are not tagged. You can't really say this person is living at so place. So those are the peculiarities that we must accept. That is why we are called a developing nation. It is a work in progress. Not just like maybe like in UK. You can easily carry a bag of rice and locate a particular person that needs it. So these are things we must appreciate.
Chimberlin, our major problem as a people, like I said, is planning. Because what was even the thinking behind selling 40,000 naira bag of rice to a civil servant that you have just approved 70,000 as his minimum wage, and he has not even collected the 70,000. So as far as I'm concerned, any civil servant that will come out with 40,000 to buy a bag of rice, I should question him. Out of 70,000 a month, which has not even yet been paid. So I know that civil servants usually have cooperatives, that they use the cooperatives to help themselves, either at the end of the year or in between if anyone has a problem. But for you to go out to in front of secretariat or to any of them, say, look, civil servants, come and buy a bag of rice, 40,000. So if a civil servant comes out with 40,000 to buy a bag of rice that you have not paid him a minimum wage by now, or even up to that, is number one question mark. Planning, going further in planning, we've mentioned even the fuel subsidy, we have mentioned Dangote refinery, we have mentioned, all these are problems of planning. For me, even the refinery, first of all, that the Dangote has today, did he plan where he will get crude before, after doing the refinery? And today he's crying for crude. It's just the same problem that all of us have as a people. Well, before you we are all, today is day of analogy. Before you get married, Chimberlin, you already know that, look, in the next 10 years, this is where you will be, this is how many children you will have, and this is what you want to do, how to empower yourself to fit your family. Our problem today, I have not yet seen the developmental plan of, when you look at the third world countries, you want to look at Bangladesh, do you want to look at Singapore, do you want to, how did they?
Well,
I have not seen.
We have several rolling plans.
Yes, so the policy, most of the policies in Nigeria are borrowed policy. Maybe someone just thought of selling 40,000 bag of rice to civil servants and to, that will be a great idea.
By the way,
without knowing the impact.
Well, not that we hate civil servants. Of course, we love civil servants.
No,
but we're only saying, look, we haven't heard the authorities say, after they finish with civil servants, we're coming to this group, we're coming to that group.
So let me tell
we're
you,
just asking.
As government today, Chimberlin, that is the only place, as far as I'm concerned, that government can say this is the correct database we have as a people.
Only in civil service.
Only in civil service.
But they have ghost workers there.
Exactly, but at least to some certain extent. Because now, where is the database? I was in the National Assembly with all the social incentives. Is it from the humanitarian that give 200, give 20,000 today, give 5,000? What impact has it made on Nigerians today?
By the way,
because somebody would just pack his family and say, these are the names. Where is the social security register of the actual 200 million of Nigerians?
Again, the governors,
this is what we want to do.
That's why there are more questions for the governors, because they said the former list or register was not up to speed. Now we're asking, what documents are they working with? If they say they had the right documents, why do we have all those amounts of people on the streets? So who were they giving whatever they were giving to? So even if they gave to some of those people, assuming they did that without conceding, did they think that it was a good idea? Because you gave them yesterday, they finished yesterday. They couldn't get the one for tomorrow.
And
Food for thought. Ayo.
Thank you, Chamberlain. And actually, it's more than food for. It's actually like a buffet right there, because there are so many issues to look at when we talk about governance issues in this country. But let me ask, Honorable, from what you understand, from what you know, and particularly all the issues that have been raised over time, do you think elected officials, particularly at the state levels, understand their job description? I'm talking to Honorable Jimbo, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayo. Yes, to a very great extent, many do understand. I will use myself as an example. I am representing the good people of Abak Etmebika Federal Constituency from Akwa Ibom State. Throughout my electioneering campaign, I promised my people three things: effective representation, responsible leadership, and shared prosperity. Because that is completely aligned with my responsibilities as a lawmaker.
I'm not particularly talking about you as an individual, Honorable. Just a second. Exactly where I'm going. I want you to speak not just for yourself, but a good number of people that are elected. For instance, I don't know if you saw the opening sequence of our conversation this morning. Well, we're talking about the tremendous opportunities. Every morning we bring up one skyline or the other. Yesterday we were talking about abandoned projects. Depending on whose figures you are looking at, you have between 10,000 and 56,000 abandoned projects in the country. Federal, state, and local governments, you name it, we have all of those projects. And just this morning, on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, Southeast governors haven't for 20 years plus been able to finish one project called the World Trade Center other day. I think it was the Governor Egu at the time. So that's why I'm asking. And they are repeat all over the nation. So that's why I'm asking that question. Do you think we understand our job descriptions so that we can actually bring good governance to the people without us having to experience what we experienced the past few weeks?
I agree with you, but if you give me up to 2 minutes, I should be able to do justice to your question.
Please go ahead.
Now, if you look at our budget process, the budget of Nigeria, there are projects in the budgets across the length and breadth of Nigeria, 360 federal constituencies. Now, these projects are there for implementation. But the question is, how did the preparers, so to say, those that prepared the budget, arrived at the different estimates vis-a-vis the different element of construction in the budget? Do not forget that a major component of our budget is capital. Capital has to do with construction mainly. Now, when you see abandoned project, the question is, what value was appropriated in the budget for that particular work? I have seen in the budget, 2023 budget, when I came in, where a 15.3 kilometers of road is allowed a paltry sum of 5 million naira. For crying out loud, how do you expect a contractor to use 5 million naira to execute a 15.3 kilometers of road? Obviously, those that appropriated that value to that length of road didn't understand the impact, what it actually meant to construct a 15.3 kilometers of road. It can't even do clearing. And when you see abandoned project, that is what is happening. Then coming to the house, what are we doing in order to checkmate this? If you look at, in 1993, there was an act of parliament that gave birth to National Planning Commission, establishment of National Planning Commission. This commission was saddled with the responsibility of planning holistically, including the budget of the nation, to appropriate resources according to priorities, according to needs. But after some time, that commission was left to rot until this 2024, that the House, through the committee that I deputized, National Planning and Economic Development, has resuscitated all that to make sure we bring to bed, we bring back that very agency. And this time around, we have elaborated on the scope of that agency to cut across the entire length and breadth of Nigeria, establishing those offices in 774 local government system areas in Nigeria. That is what we are doing. It is true. Many people that have been on the saddle before now possibly would not have known the real essence of their responsibilities. But things are changing. The 10th National Assembly is doing everything within its power because of the crop of people that have actually been in this house this time around.
Okay.
We are mainly young people who wants things to be done differently, thinking outside the box. You will see that in many of our bills and many of our motions that the resolution we do it on the floor.
All right, Honorable.
Yes.
Let me take the same question to. Thank you so much for that. Actually, let me take the same issue question to Honorable Bagos. You know, and I'd like you to speak to the state levels now, Honorable, because these projects that we're talking about, they are not just federal government projects alone. They are also state. There are some of them are state government projects as well. But the question that I'd like you to respond to, your angle that I'd like you to respond to, is the balance of political patronage with good governance. There are those who would say sometimes, you know, elected officials are compelled to put round pegs in square holes for political satisfaction because of subsequent elections. You've been in the National Assembly for long enough to know how these intricacies work, particularly at the state level.
Well, Ayo, it's like very intriguing and technical in the sense that when you look at what is happening at the state level, there are states that have some interventions because this is what they want to do to bridge the gap. Is it in terms of housing, or is it in terms of or transportation, or so on? So, but there are some states that some of their intervention is just to the poor, and which is one of the major problems here in Nigeria, that interventions of government is to the poor, but not infrastructure to make life comfortable for everybody. In the states, like in my own state, I have a very big example in my own state, in the sense that the past administration had abandoned projects everywhere in the name of legacy project. And the current governor is doing all that he can within his power to see that, okay, among those abandoned projects, what can he be able to do to see he will fix one or two. He has fixed some of the roads that have been there since 2015 or 2012 or so on and so forth. Looking at infrastructure that will be beneficial to the entirety of Plateau people. Is looking at agriculture. Agriculture, looking at what are those interventions that can be able to reach the entire Plateau people, not just because you are poor and someone will give you 5,000. That is why we always have abandoned projects across the country and in some of the states, because most of the projects we have that are being abandoned are politically motivated projects given to politicians that don't have capacity, given to politicians that just don't know how to go about it, but because it's a project of 100 million, and once you see a contract of 100 million, a politician has already calculated 70 million as his profit and 30 million for foundation, and it becomes abundant because the person is now powerful. The governor cannot say anything to such a person. But when states will now start looking at, look, what are those projects that are beneficial to the people, give to the right contractor. There are many 101 ways that you can be able to galvanize politicians and reach out to politicians, but infrastructure that has to do with the capital projects of a country and a state has been a major problem for politicians. Even some of the governors are having big problem because to some governors, that is the only way they can have political patronage. But at the end of the day, what is the interest of the people in most of these projects? What will benefit the people in most of these projects? You have a lot of cottage hospitals. Every year, you look at the budget, you see primary health care in every local government, or it keeps coming in. What has happened to the primary health care that has been in the budget for the past how many years? I expect that by now, most of these primary health cares supposed to have been upgraded to cottage hospital or even general hospital. But you find in a budget, primary healthcare every year in, year out.
Perhaps
you
this
find
also,
a road year in, year out. So,
Honorable, my
so
apologies.
these are issues that have to do with planning at all levels.
Well, perhaps that also speaks to, whether or not, and this is a question we've raised multiple times on this program, we have a smooth and effective employment process for politicians that we elect, leadership recruitment process. What would be your take on that? Because it will seem like it's only those who have political influence that can get in office, and not necessarily those who have the capacity to deliver good governance to the people, from what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you removed the employment process, because if it's now employment, which means every politician wants to get in there for employment. But the leadership recruitment process in Nigeria, it's what is a very big problem. Like I will narrow down to my state. My state governor was a local government chairman, and today he's a governor of the state doing wonderfully well because of the leadership qualities in him. We have all seen what he did as a local government chairman, and today we have entrusted him with leadership, and he has not disappointed the plateau people in the past 1 year. But you find that some people in some certain quarters, that after local government chairman one, or even before, without any level of leadership qualities that has been tested on you, because someone wants you to be there for his own personal reasons, they put you in there, and you only play the bidding of such an individual. But when you have leaders that are in office as a result of the yearning of the people, seeing what you can do, you always see the difference. And that's why I can say I can vouch for my own governor today. We are seeing what he's doing. And again, in the leadership recruitment,
we need to wind down.
Okay.
Yeah. Pardon me. This is for Honorable Jimbo. Benjamin Ogbonna writing, saying, you can't point at the peck in the eyes of the masses when the leaders themselves have logs of wood. I was privileged to work with a boss in a senator's house. You should see the things hoarded in a personal warehouse that are supposed to go to the people. Motorcycles, tricycles, bags of rice, sewing machines, and so on. Do the findings. You'll even realize that political office holders are behind hoarding, reselling, and rebagging these rice bags. Will not justify some dishonest practices of the masses, but let the leaders first take care of the mess.
I agree with him. That was why I referenced the budget. 2024 budget is ongoing. How many of our youth care to download that document? It's a public document, to know what federal government has earmarked for their local government, for their constituency, for their state, and begin to write to the different ministries, different agencies, and even the senators and House of Reps, pointing this project that has been earmarked for their locality for implementation. How many of them are doing that? It is true that most of these items that he has mentioned has been put in the budget for the senator, for the House of Reps to distribute. And when they take custody of this thing, sometimes they delay in the distribution. But the people are equally there to hold them accountable. That is the point.
Yeah, and you know, Chimali, if I want to add on these items, why you now see National Assembly members sharing motorcycles, sharing all those, is as a result of failure of leadership from the top. Because what is the business of it?
Or the states?
Not everywhere. Everywhere. Be it because what is the business of a National Assembly member sharing motorcycles, sharing all these things? Why are we? That is a misplacement. That is a misplacement of priority. Because at the end of the day, because people are in the poverty line. If you give them those things, they are now happy. But the right thing at a certain level, something is missing.
We want to thank both of you for coming on. Honorable Dashon Bagos and Honorable Clement Jimbo, thank you very much indeed for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.